Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed to another edition of the Mark Moses Show podcast here on a Taco Tuesday on the coast here in beautiful Central Florida. And yes, we're always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Take back control of your life. Call them today, 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3. I also want to thank Walk On Sports Bistreaux in Vieira. Thanks to everyone who came out to the draft party last Thursday. We had a full house. It was fun. And yes, they're home of the $5 Tito's all day, every day at Walk On's Vieira. Now let's get this guy on. Very busy man. He joined us for 20 minutes on Friday to recap round one of the draft. He is my great friend, Alan Zlotorzynski with Brevard Sports Network. Alan, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thanks for having me. And fun time of the year, buddy. Busy, but fun.
It is a busy time of year. So last Friday, we'll start with this with high school sports. We were talking draft, but you kind of did this little like news tease. We were like, oh, in the next 20 minutes, we're going to announce another coaching hire here in Brevard County, football-wise. So, Alan, for the three people waking up from a coma, what is this big news here for a Tuesday?
Yeah, Kevin Mays comes back to Brevard County as the head football coach, kind of full circle where it all began for him at Palm Bay High School. 1991 graduate of Palm Bay, spent time at Palm Bay as an assistant with Dan Burke, was on the state championship winning staffs of 2000 and 2002. And he comes home. Of course, he led the Vieira Hawks program for 7 seasons, took them to the 2015 state championship game against St. Thomas Aquinas, went to Baker County, won a couple of district championships, reached another Final Four with the Baker County Wildcats, and now he is back home in Brevard County to restore the cannon fire, I guess you could say, for the Palm Bay Pirates.
That is really cool. I looked at my phone over the weekend where I'm like, wait a minute, Kevin Mays, that sounds familiar. And I'm looking for the phone just like you. I have all these coaches in my phone in the contacts. Kevin's in there. He is a great guy, man. And I can't believe it's been 10 years since he took that Vieira team to the championship game.
Do you remember, you may or may not remember this, but in your studios when I was doing the weekend thing, we brought Trey Nixon in that time. Kevin Mays came into the studio. So, yes, Mark, it's been a while, but he's back.
Yeah, and, okay, so I follow him on Twitter as well, Coach Mays, and I got to get him on. So he was tweeting at like 7 a.m., all these Palm Bay football things. He's ready, buddy. He is ready. So you announced it last Friday. Have you gotten a chance to talk to Coach since then?
Yeah, we talked to him Friday night and interviewed him Friday night. He's ready to go, and I really believe that Kevin looks at this as an opportunity. And listen, he is serious about wanting to take that program to a state championship. And it's interesting because when you look at a lot of the coaching hires over the years through Brevard County that we've reported on, you can go back and kind of read the comments a little bit, right? Some of the community buys in, some of the community doesn't buy in. When you look at the comments underneath the Kevin Mays' name, all of them, and read them because they're fascinating. They are all like, they know. People know what Kevin is capable of. They know what he's going to do at Palm Bay. And, I mean, this is a huge, huge hire for Palm Bay. Athletic Director Brian Crowley, Principal Judd Kaminsky. They have done a spectacular job in being able to get Kevin Mays to come back to Palm Bay.
Okay, here's the follow-up then for Alan, who does a great job with the Brevard Sports Network covering high school football here in this county. Okay, realistic expectations for year one, because it can't be, we're going for a state title.
No, I'd say, look, this is a program that didn't win a game last year. Keep that in mind too. I'd say Kevin is going to want 4 or 5 victories this year, and then he'll build it from there. Look. Excuse me, he took a Vieira program that had won 8 games in 4 years prior to his arrival, and it took him 3 years, but he went undefeated in 2014 and then to the state championship game in 2015.
Yeah, that's That's really exciting. So, yeah, go to the Brevard Sports Network Facebook page. I know you guys are on YouTube as well to check out that interview. And I'm going to get Coach John as well. He's a good dude. Okay. Are we now all locked in? I love I do this every 3 weeks with you. Are all coaches now hired? Are we ready to go for this fall?
Well, I thought we were the last time you asked me that question, Mark. But I mean, the answer then was yes, because, and listen, I also want to give a lot of credit to Mitchell Brown, the head coach, from last year. Mitch was going to be the head coach this year, but Mitch is a young guy who recognizes what having a coach like Kevin Mays means to the program. So it appears as if Mitch will run the defense at Palm Bay. So I just wanted to give a big shout out to Mitch as well. But to answer your question, I think so.
Yeah, it's always a revolving door. And you brought this up a couple weeks ago when Coach Snyder Coco was on Capitol Hill talking about, hey, we got to get better pay for these football coaches. So I get it. I want there to be stability around the state, not just this county, everywhere where these guys should be paid a fair wage for all the hard work they do.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we've lost a good one in a guy like a Derek Smith who's up in Georgia. But, listen, Dr. Andrew Ramjeet is continuing to fight for that through the Florida Coaches Coalition. And here's hoping those guys get eventually what they deserve.
Okay, so we're here with Alan. He's talking high school football. Good luck to Coach Mays and that whole coaching staff and all the players. Go get those wins this fall at Palm Bay High School. All right, so spring practice, has that started now, Alan, around the county?
Stuff started yesterday, and games will take place in about 3 weeks in here coming up. So, yes, they just, they're out there running around in shorts and T-shirts right now, maybe helmets, and then they'll put the pads on later next week, I think, and get into some hitting and then get ready to play in some jamborees or some games. Not a lot of games this year for spring football. You're starting to see high schools do a lot more of what the colleges are doing in that they're doing intra-squad stuff, black and yellow, white and green, whatever games. So you're seeing a lot more of that, and so I'll keep you posted on that.
Okay. You're doing, baseball, softball, lacrosse. You've been busy with that. Have you, because I know you got a full staff here, have you gotten a chance, or are you going to go out to some of these practices?
No, we'll get out to some of these practices. I got to get through baseball first. We've got baseball every night this week with the exception of Friday. We have game 2 tonight for Merritt Island against Balin Jesuit, and game 1 for Vieira starting tomorrow night. Merritt Island's in an 0-1 hole. Great game last night. Nothing. Top of the 8th inning. Balin Jesuit hits a weaver. If you don't know what a weaver is, that's a 3-run home run in the top of the 8th inning to take a 3-0 lead. They would go on to win. Merritt Island down 1-0.
So tonight you got game 2.
Game 2.
What do you need to see better from the Mustangs to get this W tonight then?
Runners in scoring position. They've got to capitalize with runners in scoring position. Balin Jesuit last week. It's really quite incredible what Balin Jesuit has done. They're a number 6 seed in this region. Last week they eliminated O'Galley. They trailed 3-1 in the top of the 7th, hit a 2-run home run in the top of the 7th, and then a grand slam in the top of the 8th to win the game. So if you don't catch Balin Jesuit by the time you reach the late innings, I think recent history suggests you could be in trouble.
Yeah, it's a good point. All right, so just one more time. So you're gonna do the Merritt Island game. What other games going on this week then?
Well, that's pretty much it. I mean, we are coming down to the nitty-gritty. Track regionals are going on as well. But softball districts are going on. We'll keep you posted on those next week and let you know which teams reach the state tournament. Vieira boys and girls lacrosse are all that's left for lacrosse. The girls are down in St. Thomas tonight. The boys will play 17-0 Lake Mary tomorrow night. So good luck to both of those teams. But that's it.
Okay. We're here now on Zlotorzynski, Brevard Sports Network. I have to ask it. And it's funny you bring that up about spring games for high school. Maybe every level of football, there'll be no more spring, like the actual game. Maybe just you practice a little. I mean, it's kind of sad. I know they're stupid at the same time, but it is kind of sad there won't be any of these spring games like we used to.
Well, yeah, I agree. I'd like to see spring high school football games because it gives us a better take, just like college. It gives you a better feel, But that's the selfish side of me, and we'll see what happens.
All right, we talked on Friday about Shedeur Sanders and the NFL draft. That was after round 1, and we kind of had this feeling like, yeah, he's going to get drafted. That was the feeling Friday. We knew he was going to get drafted somewhere. Were you in shock, Alan?
Yeah.
That he went to the 5th round and it took till Saturday afternoon for him to get drafted.
I don't think there's not a human being on this planet that wasn't shocked. And listen, I think two things can be true about this situation. I do. And I think those two things came together to become a perfect storm for Shedeur Sanders. I think one of those things is everything that you hear that has nothing to do with what he's capable of on a football field. In other words, there are people out there that will tell you that he didn't do well in his interviews. And look, he didn't do well in his interviews. He didn't. In fact, he treated a lot of his interviews the same way his father treated those interviews. Deion tells this story where he went in and spoke to a particular team, and Deion asked that team, where in the draft are you picking? And the team said something like 11th. Deion got up, shook their hands, walked out the door, and said, "I'm not going to be around at 11." I hear, and I got a buddy that works with the Ravens. I'm told that Shedeur didn't do stuff like that, but that he was arrogant in a lot of these interviews, and he paid the price for it. Listen, to think that general managers don't talk, to think that general managers don't share information like that when it comes to things like that, how did that guy interview with you? He was terrible. Now, they may not share secrets about who they're going to pick or what they're going to pick, but I think general managers would want to know, or owners would want to know, hey, was this guy like this in the interview room with you? Did he act like this? And I think when you look and you see, I don't know, Mark, I guess the flash, the glitz, the money, listen, I went back and watched several interviews of his father. I was trying to figure this out. Yeah. I went back and watched several interviews with his father at the Super Bowl. And just about every one of them, Deion made it perfectly clear that the Sanderses were going to control the narrative. They were going to decide where Shedeur played. I don't think any of this played well. I also don't think the fact that because Deion has been, and Peter Schrager brought this up, and I think this is a great point by Peter Schrager. Schrager mentioned the fact that Deion does a lot of media work. He has worked in the media. He has done a lot of stuff. The NFL Network, CBS Sports. I believe there are analysts out there that are afraid to tell Deion, your kid's not that good at certain things. He's a backup in the National Football League. So, but then you look at how he played. And I think certainly Shedeur Sanders is far better than where he was drafted. He's a 3rd-round prospect. You and I talked before the draft. No knock on Shedeur Sanders. I don't think Cam Ward in any other draft is a 1st-round quarterback. But the bottom line is in this draft right here, Shedeur Sanders probably should have went somewhere in the bottom of the 2nd round.
Yeah, he should have been better than the 5th round. But I remember having you on after the combine, and I remember telling you, like, this whole circus turns me off. I told you that then when the way he was talking, he's doing the bling bling with the watch and my daddy's this, my dad. I don't think okay, so it's very layered. Or what were you going to say, Alan?
I was just going to say, the whole legendary thing. Deion's legendary. Shedeur is not. I think, listen, and I think inducting him into the Colorado Football Hall of Fame, the putting his number up on the, what the hell is that? I mean, he just played his last game. I mean, you don't do things like that. You just don't. And that turns off people, good, bad, or indifferent. That's people don't look fondly on that stuff.
See, it's so interesting of a story. And I said this yesterday on the show, and I'll say it to you now, Alan, and I appreciate coming on. I had people coming in my office yesterday who don't really watch sports. And they were like, what is this story? What is going on here? Why did this guy not get drafted? Remember, President Trump, I think it was Thursday or Friday, started tweeting about it. Like the whole country. It's weird. I point him as the biggest loser of the draft and the biggest winner of the draft. Now he's even more famous, even if he's not good or not. The whole country's talking about this guy. Everyone.
I think, like I said, I think two things are true here. I think that he hurt himself, and I think there was collusion. I'm sorry, but I believe there was.
I'll just say this. You had Brian Daboll. You don't really do this. The coach of the Giants, who's on the hot seat himself.
Right.
He was openly, usually it's supposed to be, a coach told me, sources tell me. No, he was on record saying that this guy was terrible at the interview process.
Yeah, I certainly believe general managers and owners colluded here to keep him out of the NFL draft until a certain point. Okay. But I also believe he's not worthy of being a first round pick. You get the argument from me. I didn't think in any other draft. You want to tell me you think that Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders is as good as Jaden Daniels?
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. These guys, Cam Ward, you're right, might have been a second round pick if he was in last year's draft. You're absolutely right.
I don't see it. And Shedeur and even Jackson Dart, look, and this thing in Cleveland is really worth watching.
Oh, they're a disaster. They're a disaster. They have 5 quarterbacks.
They've had 40 starting quarterbacks since they came back into the league in 1999. They now have Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. It's really wild. You know what this goes to? All right, Deion Sanders is one of the great defensive back / wide receiver, return men. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a top 50 player of all time.
Yes.
And for our younger viewers and listeners, he played about a decade in baseball. He's one of the great athletes of all time.
Yeah.
He's up there. He made his son a quarterback, though. You didn't have to do that.
No.
His son could have been a wide receiver, defensive back. He would have been a first-round pick. No. I want to show the world my son is going to be a quarterback. So, Deion coached him since he was probably in Pee-wee, high school, 2 stops in college. I'll be his coach. I'll show the world my son's the man, and we'll play him at quarterback.
I think it was apparent what scouts thought. And I want to talk about the football side of this for a minute with Shedeur Sanders. But I think it was apparent what scouts thought. We always ask the question, was it Belichick or was it Brady? Was it Brady or was it Belichick? Well, I think a lot of scouts answered the question, was it Travis Hunter or was it Shedeur Sanders? Right? Yeah. That question's answered.
Yeah, you're right. And I was telling this to my dad the other day where you were there with me. So on signing day, the number 1 recruit in the country was Travis Hunter, and he was committed to Mike Norvell, maybe his first class at Florida State. And on signing day, they were ready for Travis Hunter to be a Seminole. Here we go. And at the last second, remember, this is before NIL, all of a sudden, I'm going to Jackson State with Deion Sanders. And it was like a shocker in the state of Florida. And Hunter's been with Deion this whole time. And now he is going to be there in Jacksonville. It's wild to think.
It didn't. And that's why I say, and I hate to keep saying this, that's why I say 2 things can be true here. Travis Hunter was like a son to Deion Sanders, and he went number 2 in the draft.
Yes.
Okay. So, Travis is very much about the bling and the flash and, but he went number 2 in the draft, and Travis interviewed very well for those that want to know.
Yeah, he wants to win, and he wants to play. All right, this goes deeper, and we're here at the Alan Zlotorzynski Brevard Sports Network. joining me here in the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Okay, this goes to the topic we've been talking about for the last couple of years. This reminds me of high school and college players where, well, I have all the power. I call all the shots. If you don't do what I want, I'm going to the transfer portal and I'm going to another team. And the problem with that theory is you get to the NFL, you don't have the power anymore. No, we tell you where you're getting drafted and you're going to play for us. If you're Shedeur Sanders, you can't go to the Browns and then say, I don't like this, I'm transferring to the Denver Broncos. No, the NFL's, you're right. All those GMs, all those coaches and owners talk. No, you don't get the power. This is the top level. You don't get to jump ship. It's not about you.
I think the NFL, listen, a lot of people have raised the question, what's the difference between what the Elways did? What's the difference between what the Mannings did? What's the difference between what the Shedeur and Deion did? Nothing. People were pissed when Eli Manning and Archie Manning. Go back, watch. People were extremely upset with the Mannings for the whole Eli situation. The problem was Eli Manning was a better quarterback in college.
Oh, yeah.
People were extremely upset with John Elway in 1983 when he said, I'm not playing for the Baltimore Colts. Don't draft me. People, that story, Mark, in 1983 was on Nightline with Ted Koppel, okay? People were very upset. So don't say that people didn't get outraged when Eli Manning did this, when John Elway did this. Ted Koppel called John Elway a punk to his face on national television, that happened. People were upset when that happened. People don't like to be told, especially NFL owners and general managers, what they're going to do.
You're right. Look, there's probably been other prospects who were very unprofessional, talking nonsense like this. But what's interesting, this is Deion's son. He's been in the public eye. Deion's going to continue to be in the public eye.
Well, right? So was Archie Manning.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Right.
I'll say this to you one more time. When you look back at this draft, you're going to think of Shedeur Sanders. Don't matter what Cam Ward could be a Hall of Fame quarterback. Don't matter. It's going to be about him. And people are, here's what's funny. You said this earlier. Everyone's going to be like, all right, I want to see this guy play. Let's see what he can do with the Browns.
I hope Shedeur Sanders personally goes out there and tears it up. I do. I hope he goes out there and becomes a tremendous success. Here's the thing. If Shedeur Sanders and you want to say walks into camp with a chip on his shoulder, well, he's already got a chip on his shoulder. Yeah. Now he's got 2 chips on his shoulder. If he doesn't walk into camp, and if he's as good as some of the pundits believe he is on the field, the media, some of these analysts say he is, because here's the other thing that I found very, very interesting about this. There was an obvious, clear divide between what NFL scouts saw in Shedeur Sanders and what the NFL media saw in Shedeur Sanders, because Mel Kiper, you picked the analyst. They were all shocked by this.
Yeah.
And a lot of scouts were saying in the NFL, well, he's not more than a 3rd round pick. He doesn't do these things well. I thought that was an interesting, divide with this particular situation. But if he doesn't walk into camp with a chip on his shoulders and dominate a quarterback room that is as bad as any as I've ever seen, then he was picked exactly where he should have been picked.
And I want you to know this. I will stand on this comment. Mel Kiper is the GOAT when it comes to the NFL draft. He's the original. He's one of the reasons the NFL draft got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, all these guys, and hey, we're wannabes as well compared to Mel Kiper. I'll admit it. I feel I love the draft, and it just grew and grew and grew. And I remember growing up watching him, and he is the original guy. And it's funny where a lot of people are attacking him. And I get so conflicted because I feel like Mel Kiper, just like NFL Films is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I think Mel Kiper should be in the Hall of Fame for what he's contributed to the draft.
Yeah, you're right. Especially for what he's done to the draft. He's a Baltimore guy, got to start with the Baltimore Colts, evaluating talent, and not for them, but just showing up and evaluating talent.
Yeah.
That was Mel Kiper, Baltimore boy. But yeah, he was all in on Shedeur, and so were a lot of other analysts. And we'll see who was right.
Yeah. And look, and Kiper made a comment. Look, the last 50 years, these GMs, executives don't know what they're doing with the quarterback position. They don't. And you know what? There's some truth in that. Now, he's missed as well. He has. He thought Johnny Manziel was going to be great. He thinks Shedeur Sanders. We don't know. But I agree. It is a crapshoot. We don't know who's going to be good or not.
What I think Mel Kiper's wrong about this is not about Shedeur, but about this quarterback position is. And I think the reason a lot of NFL GMs have missed the way that they have is because I don't believe anyone saw the quarterback position transitioning to a multi-dimensional athlete as quickly as it did. I don't think people saw the Josh Allens and Lamar Jacksons of the world being as great as quarterbacks as they are. Patrick Mahomes, Listen, Mark, these guys revolutionized this position. And I don't believe NFL GMs thought that it would occur as quickly as it did. And I also don't think they thought there were a lot of guys out there like the Mahomes, Allens of the world. But you see it every year. Jaden Daniels last year, right? Every year there's a guy or two in the draft that can do this. It's not Shedeur because he's nowhere near as good as Lamar. He's nowhere near as good as Jaden Daniels. He's nowhere near as good as Mahomes. He's no quarterback in this draft has their potential. None. Nobody does. So again, it was a bad year for this was the right draft, I guess, if this were going to happen, because all in all, this was just a bad draft.
Yeah. You know what's funny, though? Goes back to my main point. We're here at the Zlotorzynski. TV ratings were up.
Second most watched draft ever.
And the second night, I think they wanted to see where Sanders was going to get drafted.
That's the reason that's Mark. You got to, one thing you can't deny Shedeur Sanders of, he's a superstar. This was the second most watched draft in the history of the NFL draft. And the sole reason for that is Shedeur. Nobody's sticking around. Nobody was going to stick around, Mark, to see the Jacksonville Jaguars take Caleb Ransall in the third round.
No, they're not.
Okay.
I will continue to say this to you because I know, look, you're a Ravens guy through and through. That's your team. In the history of the draft, forget Sanders, the Lamar Jackson thing. It's comical. It's ridiculous. When you talk about Sanders' college tape, Lamar Jackson was destroying people, single-handedly winning games at Louisville, put them on the map. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go ask Florida State fans. He's still scoring on the Seminoles in that game from 16, destroying them. Okay. Yeah. He won the Heisman and they told him, you got to switch positions. Are you crazy? And go watch. It's like, I'll put it this way. Go back, watch his college tape. It reminds me like when you watch LeBron James in high school. He's so much better, and he's got a cannon. And the fact they're like, remember, your Ravens traded back into round 1 to get him.
Yeah.
If Harbaugh and that front office does not, I don't know where he gets drafted. Late second round? Who knows what happens with him?
I don't know. I'm glad that we got him. I was glad. Listen, I wasn't a fan of the pick.
Yeah, you had Flacco still.
Yeah, listen, I knew Lamar was going to be great, I guess, 3 games into his rookie season. You just knew.
The first year, Harbaugh switches to him.
Well, Joe Flacco got hurt,
So you
and
went with him.
we went with Lamar Jackson. And as a rookie, we go to the playoffs with Lamar Jackson.
I remember
And
that.
San Diego at the time, the Chargers blew us out at home, and people were crying and wanted Joe Flacco, and the Ravens said, "No, this is our guy." You know what? The Chargers were a better team this day. That offseason came. Joe Flacco was gone. Year 2, Lamar wins the MVP.
I've said this story for years. It's Alan's story, but I love it. I cherish hearing the story where you're in Orlando for that bowl game, Louisville.
Yeah, fun.
And he's sitting there at a table by himself.
And
you
by
went up
himself.
to talk to, you didn't know he was going to get drafted by
I mean, you got people hovering around James Conner, right? There are other guys, and there's Lamar Jackson just sitting there playing on his phone.
Dude, I say this all the time. I said this on, like, Mike Tyler had me on 107.1 A1A yesterday to ask me about this story. Because, like I'm telling you, I'm even on a top 40 pop station because people are asking, what is the Shedeur Sanders story?
Right.
So, and I always bring this up. Hey, okay, you got to go get that first job. Forget football. I'm just saying life in general.
Right.
You're a high school kid, you graduate. You're a college kid, you graduate. Wherever you do, you got to get that job, right? I'm like, look, you just need one person to believe in you. One. Get the first job. Shut up. Work hard. Build up your resume. Just work. You got to prove yourself. And this is where I disagree with the Sanders family. Don't show up with a bling bling. I'm great. You've done jack bleep. And I'm trying to keep this to family. You've done nothing. You got to go prove yourself. Heck, I'm 20 years deep in professional broadcasting, and I still got to prove myself day after day. And I know I sound like a Tony Robbins TED Talk right now. You got that. This is when I graduated, Alan, I had one job offer. One. I had to go to a middle nowhere, Iowa, and I love that place. I had to go take it. When I left there after 3 years, I had 2 job offers. 2. So I took a job in Virginia. When I left there, maybe I had 3 or 4 offers. You know what I mean? Like, this stuff is hard. You got to just go work, and you got to get one person to believe in you. That's why I get turned off.
I will say this. If Shedeur Sanders goes to the Cleveland Browns and he is a success as their quarterback, Lord help the Cleveland Browns and for his second NFL contract.
No,
because even the Cleveland Browns, who had a shot to take him 5 other times previous to making him their last pick of the draft, they're going to make him pay. And so, but he's got to get out there and he's got to do it first.
And you know what's sad about that franchise? They had a worse pick they took in Johnny Manziel, who put in no effort and was not prepared. Then you took Baker Mayfield at 1 over Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Don't forget. And he was good. He just kept getting injured. And now he's an all-pro.
They have, within the course of the last 8 years, they have picked one of the worst first-round quarterbacks in the history of the draft in Johnny Manziel, and they have doled out arguably the worst contract ever, trade and contract ever.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? Okay, so when I was growing up, my dad was a lawyer for a long time. And when I was a kid, sometimes I'd have to tag along with him. And it's like funny to think now when you think of these memories, you're growing up. So I'd sit in the back of the courtroom. My dad be, doing his thing in front of a judge. And I learned from a very young age. And my dad taught me this. Hey, you can say whatever you want. When you're there in court and that judge is talking to you, there's no BS. There's no messing around. You better, if he's asking you a question, you better give those answers.
Yeah.
That's what I think. If you're going to go talk to these general managers of the NFL and millions of dollars are on the line, you better not mess around with this.
No, I agree. Yeah. I just thought this was, this is probably a draft that I watched the least of. We did have 2 Brevard County guys that I know of. We had Raheem Sanders sign a free agent contract with the Chargers.
Okay.
And Ron Tay Farmer got a rookie minicamp invite from the New York Giants. So congratulations to those guys. And I listen, it was just fascinating to watch the Florida teams go. And, I didn't watch as much of this draft as I did other drafts, just simply because, Mark, and I didn't know these prospects after about the middle of the third round on, like I normally do. I just didn't know him.
It was a cool tweet I saw. He's one of my favorites, even though he played for the enemy. John Randall, who's in the Hall of Fame, he posted, "Hey, it's not bad that you don't get drafted. Look at me."
Right.
Hall of Fame. Him. Okay, so if you think about it, him. I don't think Tony Romo drafted. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but I mean, you think undrafted guy from Eastern Illinois to being the starting quarterback of the Cowboys to now, probably have a 30-year broadcasting career. Undrafted. Was Kurt Warner drafted? I don't think so. No, Hall of Famer. So look, it's just get the opportunity. That's what you need to do.
I agree.
Hey, Tom Brady, 6th round pick, buddy. 199.
199. 190. Now, I was pleased to see the Steelers did not draft a quarterback.
Can I say something to you? This is going to get me into trouble.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's really going to get me into trouble. You might like it. Okay, so every draft show, nonstop, was talking about the Steelers, where, we got to see what they do at 21. Oh, the Steelers. Steelers haven't been good in a decade. Stop it. They were getting so much hype that they know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. They know how to get to 8-8 and not make the playoffs. Yeah. I know you love this trash talk, but I didn't understand all this love and how great the Steelers are. They don't have a quarterback. Nope. They don't know how to win. Nope. I don't get it. I don't understand.
I thought the Ravens did a pretty good job dispatching them in the playoffs last year. Listen, I will say this. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they know how to draft defense, and, they get a good one. And the young man out of Oregon, Derek Harmon out of Oregon, scary good. The Caleb Johnson pick out of Iowa kind of shocked me a little bit. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what do you need? Running back?
Are they going to get Aaron Rodgers?
Well, based on their draft, it tells me yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, their draft screams Aaron Rodgers. So we'll see.
Yeah. They're going to have to. And I swear, dude, Chris Bonanno told me this. He's like, our Giants got Russell Wilson. I was like, when? Did that? Was that a Friday news dump? When did that happen?
That was that he signed there about like 2 or 3 weeks into free agency.
I must have been playing video games because I had no idea that was happening. No idea. I'm sorry if I'm giving hate to the Steelers.
Listen, the Giants got Russell Wilson, and now they got Jackson Dart. So, the Giants will be, they'll be okay.
Okay. So before I let you go, all right, what do you got going on games-wise for the rest of the week with Brevard?
Baseball, Merritt Island tonight, game 2, and then game 1 and 2 for Vieira tomorrow night, and then stay tuned from there.
Did you see Seth Rollins troll the Green Bay crowd? Did you see this video?
I did not, but I will have to go.
I will send it to you.
Yes, I have to go. I'll have to go back and look.
I will send it to you. Alan Zlotorzynski, Brevard Sports Network. Hey, man, thanks for your help as always, man. Love breaking down football with you, and I'll talk to you next week. All right.
Appreciate you, buddy.